The only thing we can be sure of about the future is that it will be absolutely fantastic. So, if what I say now seems to you to be very reasonable, then I'll have failed completely. Only if what I tell you appears absolutely unbelievable have we any chance of visualizing the future as it really will happen.
Hello, and welcome to Arthur C. Clarke Presents metaFUTURES, an exploration of what the metaverse is and what it may mean for the world to come. I'm your host, Patrick Coleman, and along with the Arthur C. Clarke Center for Human Imagination and the Origami Air Co., we're very excited to have you with us as we explore the limits of the possible when it comes to the metaverse. To begin our journey, if you want to follow me outside, we're going to get on an airship to our first destination.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at the Grove of the Matriarchs. I'm Chef Olivia Hernandez, and joining us here today is Shelby Smith, the owner and creator of Jiminy Crickets. How are you today?
I am doing great, Chef Olivia. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. And what do you think of this amazing storefront?
I am just absolutely in awe to see it. It is just so cool to see the different products, to hear the crickets chirping in the background. Like, this is just awesome.
It is incredible. And can you tell us a little bit about, why crickets? And I know a lot about your story, but I'm so excited to hear it here in this space for our friends to hear all about how you started.
Yeah, so the running joke for folks when they ask that question is, what are you talking about? I grew up dreaming of becoming a cricket farmer. Doesn't everybody? But really, truly, I grew up on a very traditional corn and soybean farm in the middle of central Iowa, and I wanted absolutely nothing to do with agriculture, nothing to do with the state of Iowa. In fact, I was on a plane out of there as fast as I could. I ended up being good enough at basketball that I earned a full scholarship to St. Joseph's University out in Philadelphia to play basketball.
Wow.
While I was there, I ended up with an undergraduate degree in finance, and then I became part of a program called Sport Changes Life, which was based out of Northern Ireland. So I got to go over to Ireland, and I earned a master's degree in finance from Trinity College in Dublin. And then I fell in love with the team that I was playing with because I was in their national professional league, and I said, you know what, I want to stick around, play for another year. I have this brand new master's. I'm going to go looking for a job, and I wound up as an equity derivatives trader for a Canadian bank there in Ireland. 3.5 years in, figured out I totally hated it, so I quit and moved back to the family farm there in central Iowa that I said I would never go back to. I got back just in time for harvest, helped my dad get all of the corn in the bins. By the time we got all the equipment and everything in the bins, we started having conversations about what I was going to do moving forward. He said, you don't have to do the same thing I have for over 30 years. If you can find a niche, go for it, and we'll help you get started. I listened to a whole bunch of podcasts, and believe it or not, eating bugs came up on like 3 different podcasts in the same month, and I said, that sounds kind of interesting. Fast forward a few weeks, and I found an article about a woman raising crickets for human consumption. And I said, hey, I think I can do that. Sent it to parents and said, hey, remember when you said that a niche would be a good way to go? Thankfully, they didn't say no. They just said, do some research, get back to us, see what happens. And 10 days later, I bought 10,000 crickets, and the rest is history.
Wow. Talk about support. I mean, that's incredible to have your parents just jump on in and not say, oh, no, we don't do that, which is, usually what we hear is people fighting against something. And this is, such a great story and such a great way to get started. So currently, you're still farming in conjunction with your family out there.
Yes. Well, so that is another question that comes up all the time is, well, do you help your dad anymore? And about the only time that I help him is I think once last fall I had to hop in the grain cart and I just happened to like not have anything going that day, or it was something that I could put off. But generally speaking, like I'm pretty up to my eyeballs, if you will, on the manufacturing and the farming of the crickets and the distributing to the stores and everything else at this point. There was time when I was first starting this out, as I was getting really good at not keeping crickets alive and just not having that many to sell. At that point, I was only selling at farmers markets and I was doing really low volume. But as more stores have come on and all of that, obviously my time constraints have increased.
And it's all a self-contained process here. And we're very lucky that you were able to lead us on a tour of the process today. Would y'all like to join us?
Come check out the
Awesome.
cricket castle.
Well, I will have you lead us there. Wow.
Welcome
First
to the
thing you
cricket
notice.
castle.
First thing you notice, everyone, do you hear that? Back in so they can all fit.
Backing in.
Oh my gosh, I can actually hear them in there. This is cool.
So do you
Tell us a
know
little
what
about
that's
the life cycle?
I was gonna say, do you know what that's called? That sound is called? Do you have a
Not at
guess?
all. Ooh.
The layman's term for what you're hearing would be what? Chirping, right?
Chirp. Yeah.
Yes. The technical term is actually stridulation. And believe it or not, stridulation. Yes. I didn't know this word before I became a cricket farmer, but I know it now. So
Does
believe
anybody
it or
else
not,
know that word?
anybody else know the word stridulation?
Oh, Patrick.
No.
Doesn't come up.
So I'm not an entomologist by trade, obviously. So everything that I've learned has been as I've gone along. Believe it or not, it's only the male crickets that chirp. The female crickets don't chirp, and the male crickets only chirp for when they are ready to breed. So that's a signal for us that the crickets are ready to breed, the females are ready to lay eggs. So most of the time, our cricket barn is actually silent. So you can only hear them like skittering around, whether they're running away from each other or eating food or whatever. Most of the time, it's completely silent until that very last week of life when the males start chirping and the females are ready to lay eggs. I find this sound kind of soothing. Depends on the person, I suppose. It's a really common question for customers of, isn't it really, really loud in your barn? And I say, only for 7 days. So you can tolerate anything for 7 days.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. So those 7 days are just like your signal, a pretty good way to know what phase you're in essentially in your life cycle. Can you tell us a little bit about the process, since you have all this really neat stuff that I really want to kind of touch, but I'm not going to?
Yes. So once we have grown the crickets out, the females have given us enough eggs that we're pretty confident that we will replace or expand our population if that's the phase that we're in. Then the very first step is actually over here by the sink. Sorry. It's actually this right here. Anybody have any guesses as to what this is? Can you guess what this is?
Looks to me like a freezer.
It is indeed a freezer. So the very first step with our harvest is we freeze the crickets. That's a very common question as well. How do you kill the crickets? And we freeze them. So we put them in the freezer. They go to sleep. Most insects have a dormancy phase when the temperatures reach below a certain level. Because they're cold-blooded, they don't generate their own heat. So they go into dormancy, and then eventually they die. So it's very peaceful to to sleep, and then they just never wake up. And then after we've frozen them, the next steps are over here at the stovetop. We flash boil the crickets, and the reason that we do that is for food safety purposes. We get them above, we treat them similar to shellfish, and I think the recommended temperature is 170 degrees for 15 seconds or more. So we make sure we do that so we cover all of our food safety bases. Then they are rinsed, and then they are dehydrated in just a big food dehydrator, so it's just warm forced air. And then at that point, once we have the dry crickets, which you see over there on the shelf, that's what those bags are over there on the shelf, are dried crickets. And then that's where the magic really begins to start to happen. That's when we start to process them into a final product. So this contraption right here, the mill, and we use that mill to take our whole dry crickets and turn them into our cricket powder. And then the cricket powder, we sell that as is, as you saw out on that front counter, or you might have noticed on that front counter off to the right side, there were also cricket bars. So that's also what we use our cricket powder for. So we grind it up and we mix it in. It's a little easier and a little more approachable for first-time bug eaters. They don't have to see the whole cricket. Otherwise, we leave the crickets whole, we season them, we
Special
roast
thanks
them,
to our host.
and those taste a whole lot like sunflower seeds, and believe it or not, make up 70% of our sales. Which, like I said, I know
really?
that, yeah. So, the market research, or the research coming out of some of the larger companies that are VC funded, maintains that the actual structure of the bug needs to be contained or concealed for widespread adoption. I have a few years under my belt now, and tens of thousands of samples and tons of sales that would say otherwise. I would say
Wow.
that people are actually willing to accept the entire bug. So.
That's incredible. That's actually not intuitive to me. I wouldn't have guessed that right off the bat. I would think that a cricket bar, or really, the event we met at, the only way anyone got me to eat them was I ate it in the banana bread, and I thought, okay, that's fine. And then from there, I moved on to the powder and mixed that into dressings. My experience so far, I've been saving myself for our experiences with our network when we get our tasters out of your product, and I'm really excited to see how we all fare with these products, but I'm really surprised. And the powder as well, one of the things that I noticed is that you lift. and I noticed your logo. So the nutritional value of this, can you speak to that? I mean, I feel like you're an embodiment of this kind of like philosophy that you can get plenty of protein. Does cricket protein make up a lot of your diet?
So I tell people that I don't eat crickets as much as I would like, but there's a good reason. It's a good problem to have, and that's because I move through the product so fast on the sales side that I can't. I have to have crickets to sell. At the end of the day, this is my livelihood. But I'm really glad you brought up the nutrition facts on this. So crickets themselves, the overall nutritional profile is dependent a lot on what you feed it. It's like any other animal, and what you feed those animals, higher quality product in equals higher quality product out. Crickets are no exception. But so we've had our crickets tested, and our crickets are 64% protein, so double the protein of beef. They have more iron than spinach, more calcium than milk. They're a great source of vitamin B12. They have omega-6s and omega-3s. They're actually a source of prebiotic fiber, and that's thanks to the exoskeleton. The chitin in the exoskeleton actually just functions as a fiber for us. So it's fairly uncommon to find a animal protein source or a complete protein source that is a super abundant source of fiber as well. So I think that's a pretty cool feature that is sometimes downplayed. Magnesium, there's all sorts of benefits to eating the crickets. What I always tell people, because that's also a very common question, is, why would I do this? The other thing I tell people is all of that doesn't matter though if it tastes like crap. So my
That's true.
my number one mission and the thing that is super duper important to me is that when I get someone who maybe was on the fence, maybe was a little bit curious, but just hadn't had the opportunity to try a cricket, I want to make sure that it is the most delicious cricket experience that they could possibly have. So you won't find any sort of like gimmicky flavor or anything like that coming from me. The flavor that I launched most recently was chili lime. It took me 6 iterations of the recipe before I was confident in launching it, just because I want to make sure that that flavor is the best that it can be, because that might be the first and last cricket somebody tries. They may have only gotten the courage to do it once. So it's just really important to me.
That's really, really wonderful to hear, because I've, as a curator of products, I come across a lot of them, and I test a lot of things, and I taste a lot of things. And that was one of the things that really drew me to your products, was you were very genuine about it, and your mission to have people try the best cricket. If it's going to be their first time, and it should be, they should be sure, and it shouldn't be because of the flavor or the gimmicks that you used. Well, that's so wonderful. Thank you so much. Shall we take a look at some of these awesome products you have? So here you also have a really good spot where you can educate our customers who come through here, and you can learn a lot more by walking through this space as you go in a self-led tour. If you're lucky, you might catch Shelby in here. She can give you some extra information, but some quick facts. What are the things you throw at people?
So the things that I really like to throw at people about eating insects in general is that 80% of the world's countries are doing it. It's already being done in other parts of the world. It's really only us here in the US, Canada, and Western Europe that are not doing a lot of the entomophagy. Our neighbors down in Mexico, they eat all sorts of different insects depending on the region. There's, different regions are home to different common insects. Most of them are foraged, and actually that is the case in most of the world. Most insects that are eaten are foraged insects. Not all insects that taste delicious are necessarily conducive to industrial scale or commercial raising. So that's why, crickets and mealworms tend to be the ones you find farmed most often, because those are the ones that are conducive to more of a commercial setup. So here in the West, typically, crickets are the gateway bug, is what I like to call them. Again, crickets and mealworms are the most common. Those are mealworms. I went back and forth about raising them instead of crickets. Truthfully, they're actually simpler in many ways to raise. They're a lot less finicky about what they will eat. But I, at the time, before I'd eaten my first cricket, was having a real struggle, wrapping my mind around eating a mealworm. It was just something about the movement, just kind of grossed me out. I didn't have that same hang up with crickets for whatever reason. So that was why I ended up choosing crickets instead of mealworms. And I think, for early adopters, it still seems like the right call. Just something about the movement of the mealworm turns people off.
It certainly sounds like you kind of have to find the right bug for you, but also the crickets are a pretty common, easy snack. I see a lot of kids getting into it where their parents bring it home. I saw some videos from your recent event where a lot of little kids were getting into it, and I think that's really rad. I love that you also respect that other cultures have been doing this for a long time, and you're not trying to come in and reinvent the whole eating system. You're actually adding to it and I think making it more accessible for people. So I appreciate that so much. I'm excited to check out some of these products that you have up front. So I'm going to squish over there real fast.
Yes, let me move out of your way slightly.
Let's see here. Lovely.
Yes.
And here we have this gorgeous little link if you want to go to your website. It actually goes right to your browser, which is really rad. This might be our first retail store. in here, and that's pretty cool. We have a first in Afterville. That's so
awesome.
rad. Thank you for choosing us. I mean, I
Super
can totally
cool.
see myself hiking through here and, immediately needing a snack within the first, 50 feet of this, and popping in here for a little quick protein snack so I can get all the fuel I need to make it all the way out to those beautiful lookout points.
Heck yeah.
Very
These are
exciting.
great, easy to grab and go. Grab and go
awesome.
and take with you.
Lovely. Well, team, that is so wonderful. Does anyone have questions? I'm going to go ahead and open this up to the Q&A portion.
Me? Calling on me?
Yes.
Yes. What's next with these types of bars and everything? Are you working on anything like a new type of product, and are you trying to scale up and expand out?
Yes, great question. So I don't necessarily intend to bring another insect on board yet. For me, at this point, every single cricket that goes into our products is raised on one of our network of Iowa family farms. So it's not just me raising the crickets. I actually have a network of growers that I taught them how to grow them. And we all have the same feed. They grow them out, and I take and process them into the final product. So there are constraints in that growth model. You can't necessarily scale as quickly because there is just a learning curve with getting new growers onboarded and teaching them how to do things and all of that kind of stuff. So we are looking at adding new growers and doing that. I will also be expanding and I'm building a bigger farm myself. So all of that is in the works at the same time as expanding into stores nationally. So I'm distributed through the warehouse of a regional grocery store chain here in Iowa called Hy-Vee. They're in about 7 states, and I think they just added 3 more down in the southeast. So I actually ship to their warehouse, and they sell my 4 top-selling flavors of my roasted crickets. For that, I will be looking at doing some larger retailers and all that stuff too. So in terms of product development, one of my goals this year was actually to launch 4 new flavors of roasted crickets, a 1 a quarter. I didn't get my chili lime out until the second quarter, so maybe we'll only get 3 out this year. So I will be adding some new flavors in on that, maybe another flavor in on the bar. Like big 5-year dream. I would love to have some sort of like extruded snack or something like that. What I think is a really difficult sort of a thing when you are trying to get people exposed to it, you kind of want to give them some sort of a, familiar product. So a chip or a bar or a brownie or a cookie or something like that. But because cricket powder at current scale, the economics of it make it such an expensive ingredient that the only way to compete price-wise with a lot of those, consumer packaged goods that the larger companies are churning out, the only way you can do that and include cricket powder is to include it in a non-significant way. And for me, that just doesn't feel right from an integrity standpoint, just to, expand my offerings with some sort of a different product and be like dusting it with crickets. So yes, I would love to have some other products, but we're not there yet. I need more crickets. I always need more crickets.
Well, there's a workforce development angle here. I mean, you're expanding and you're creating jobs or new ways for people to make money around you and all over the country. So basically your experience has started to scale, and that's so beautiful. I love that you also have an economics background, so you're kind of like way more dangerous than we know, like right off the bat. You're like, also, I can totally back this up, and I love to see that. And to me, it's just so awesome that you're creating new ways for people to make money off of these sustainable and just practices and all these new ways of eating that I think we just need to be exposed to. We might not even know we like it.
Yes,
Thank you so
without a
much
doubt.
for the work that you do. What are the top 4 selling flavors? I need to know. I'm sorry. I'm just curious.
Yes, so my top 4 sellers of my roasted crickets are my smoky barbecue, hot and spicy, dill pickle, and fiesta. But if you have to ask what my favorites are, because that was all I told people all weekend, my favorites are my chili lime, my maple chipotle, and my buffalo ranch. I really like those
Oh,
ones.
wow. I do like
Yes,
buffalo
and then
ranch.
if you look at on the bar side, though, my salted caramel, far and above, is my best seller of my bars, followed probably by banana bread and chocolate mocha. But my personal favorite on that one is the lemon. But I always tell
Oh
people,
my
if you don't
gosh.
like lemon things, you're going to absolutely hate it.
Well, now I know what I'm going to put in my snack kit for my stuff that I want soon. How about
Hey,
we take
Chef.
a little...
How
Hey,
you doing? This is
very
Shelby.
good. Hey, Joe.
Thanks for
Hello.
making it out to the Grove of the Matriarchs.
Yes.
If you don't know out there where we're at the Grove of the Matriarchs. This is part of AltSpace VR. It's this metaverse portion of Cascadia that everybody here brings to life. And we're really excited that somebody from Iowa has decided to come out and ranch some crickets with us. Thanks for coming out to the park, and I sorry to interrupt your conversation, but I was hoping that you might join me for a little bit of a hike in the last part of your show here, and see what sort of metaverse ideas and futuristic things that the environment around here inspires. Maybe some Cloudberry cricket bars in the future. What do you say?
Awesome. Cloudberry cricket trail mix. Let's do it.
No, we all come in together. We call this spot Innovation Point. Supposed to give you a bird's eye view of the world around you and possibility. So hopefully you can find some inspiration today out here in our metafuture.
Yes, I can totally see us out here. Look at that. Well, Shelby, what's it like to have a virtual reality shop? So many possibilities.
There's so many possibilities, and it's kind of funny because I don't even have my own physical shop necessarily with, my name across the door. I do have one, I have a sign on my processing facility, but it's only a manufacturing facility, so it's not a storefront. So this is it's really cool to be able to see the possibilities and just like I said, why not Cloudberry cricket trail mix? Let's do it.
Right? So that's one of the wonderful things about creating products where you are. So as you expand, and you take in native ingredients, I can totally see new recipes coming together here for some of these bars and products and yeah, those Cloudberries, and especially with all those properties that you were explaining about the crickets themselves, and then adding to that these antioxidant berries, and they're so rare to find. I mean, I can really just see this product being incredible here.
Yes, without a doubt. Without
And what a
doubt.
quality of life to grow up here.
I know. That's where
Right?
I don't have cliffs like this. We're in Iowa. I'm in the middle of central Iowa. We have nothing. We're flat. Flat as a pancake.
That's true. So you have this awesome hike that you can do, and you can also, I love the way that you can show the process that you have to anyone now, really. Anyone can join us here and walk through and stop by and really see how it all comes together, and be inspired by the local flora and fauna and the sounds. It's funny, we don't hear the crickets now, but we have so many other little sounds coming around here. And the
Yes,
views are
I was
just
gonna say.
incredible.
We can hear the birds and we can hear some other insects. And that's okay. I like a little variety of insect sounds in my life. I'm good with that.
That's always good, right? For us in the kitchen, it's always the moment that we get to click the fan off for the overhead fans, and you just get the silence. I would imagine for you, it would be like stepping out of your cricket castle and then walking out here and just feeling like, a little moment
Yes, no more
to
chirping.
create. Well, one thing that's really cool about this hike is if you continue taking it on, there's all sorts of really cool Easter eggs and activities that we will be doing for the rest of the season. And I really can't wait to do some of these things with you and walk and talk along these trails and come up with new items.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for joining us, y'all, and let's continue on with our programming and our hikes. Thanks for joining us, Shelby.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So awesome.
Special thanks to our host Olivia Hernandez and guest Shelby Smith. Once again, I'm your host Patrick Coleman. Thank you for joining us.